Hey guys, good morning and welcome to another edition of Big Tech GH on Tech Focus 24. My name is Sami Dowuna. Today, let's talk about SIM swap once again. Now, I was at the MTN Executive Breakfast Meeting, MTN Business Executive Breakfast Meeting. And the topic on discussion is cybersecurity. Remember, we are in the Cybersecurity Month. So the topic on discussion was cybersecurity, particularly for SMEs. Now, during question and answer time, I asked the question about SIM swap because per what even the panelists themselves said, there was a panel of three. Per what the panelists themselves said, now we are more prone to protecting our laptops and stuff like that, but people don't think too much about protecting our phones. But phones, we do a lot of business on our phones, particularly SMEs. Remember, we are talking about SMEs, small businesses. They do a lot of business on their phones. But the protection level on the phone, the cybersecurity level on the phone is very low. Not as we do for our computers and laptops in the office. So the risk and cybersecurity specialist at Ghana Association of Bankers, her name is Audrey Minisi, she raised that point strongly that people should be thinking, businesses, young businesses, SMEs should be thinking about protecting their phones, even individuals, because they even said that a lot of the risk is not even around the systems that you have built, but more around your individual, because your staff or even managers, if you are not cybersecurity, they don't have what they call cybersecurity hygiene. They are not cybersecurity conscious. They may go and click some links and do certain things, and then it will compromise your entire system. So it's not the problem is not the system, but the individuals. So I asked the question about SIM swap, because if you say that a lot of the thing is about the person, the individuals, how about SIM swap? If my SIM is swapped at the telco, my SIM is swapped at wherever, I mean, of course, at the telco, and then they get my information on my phone to go and then enter into my bank account at my bank, and then they steal my money. You cannot blame that on me, the customer. So there is something. So my question is, there is something that the service providers must also be doing to prevent that, because if we are fighting against SIM swap, we are fighting against fraud, and you are advising me as a person that I should be careful what my behavior is online, then there are certain things too that doesn't require my behavior. It is something that is technical that happens at the service provider's end. So that must also be dealt with. Now, I asked her this question as to what they are doing at that level, the banks and telcos, what they are doing. And her response was quite refreshing, that they are actually putting measures in place to try and delay, any financial transaction activity linked to a SIM that has been swapped. The idea is to make it difficult for fraudsters, or make it unattractive for fraudsters to use SIM swap as a channel through which they defraud us.
The service providers have put some security measures in place. Right now, if you do a SIM swap, you can't access your mobile money wallet immediately. And with this same concept, working with the banks actually working with the mobile network providers, there should also be a delay. So once you do a SIM swap, the bank should also allow you to download the mobile app for you to be able to transact. The conversations are happening right now, and they're at their highest peak, where we are now going to even share information on how to protect you as our customer. Because if a mobile network company can delay, there's been a SIM swap, I'll delay you maybe by 24 hours. The bank should also have that information so that we do not allow you to transact using that platform.
All right, so that's what she said, which is fantastic. But she also said something which I think is instructive, and I'm going to give a comment about it. But let's listen to her first. She was saying that sometimes we also compromise ourselves by telling stories on social media as to where our location is. So let's say you've traveled outside of this country, and then you are sharing pictures and information online to make people know where you are. Then fraudsters know that you are not in town. So then if they have your phone number and they know somebody inside, then they can work together. Once you are not using your phone and maybe you are outside somewhere, you are probably using WhatsApp, so your phone number itself is not being used, then they can do a swap, and then if they know your other details, then they can target you again. Let's go and listen to her, and then I'll come and give a comment.
Why? And there's nothing that stops me from trying to do a SIM swap on your behalf. Why? Because you've advertised this on social media. You're in Dubai. I know you're not in the country. You can't stop me. That's one. So you also need to, your behavior, you also need to protect yourself, because there's so much information that you're putting out there and you do not know how somebody can actually take advantage of it. You want to advertise that you're in Dubai, go to Dubai and come back, then you start posting your Dubai pages. By that time, you'll be able to realize that, oh, my phone, the network is off, what's happening? I'm trying to call people, I'm unable to make a call, what's happening? Then you call your service provider and your assistant.
All right, so that's what she said. But I have 3 stories, which those of you who follow this, follow my channel, you know that there are 3 people whose SIMs were swapped, and their bank accounts at Telcos Bank in particular were broken into, and their monies were stolen. Now, these are people who were here in Ghana. These are not people who have traveled outside and they were sharing stories about their trip and or anything. So it's strange. Somebody's $8,000 and 4,000 Ghana cedis was stolen whilst he was jogging somewhere here in Accra. He was jogging. So somebody like that, he hadn't traveled anywhere. Another person who he was in town. Okay, he was in town here in Ghana. Okay, at the time I even did the story, he was in London at the time, but at the time that the incident happened, he was here in Ghana. And his SIM was swapped and his 250,000 Ghana cedis was stolen. Another gentleman was driving from Pram Pram to Accra. And they swapped his SIM and his 32,000 was stolen. So these are not people who are sharing things on social media about a trip they have taken. So I can understand, because of where she belongs, she belongs to the Bankers Association, so she's coming from industry side. So they always want to create the impression that you, the customer, might have played a role. So that they want to put in some social engineering there, might have played a role. But yes, the advice is good, that we should all be careful what we do, so that we don't give fraudsters the opportunity to know where we are and then whether we are vulnerable. Do you understand? We shouldn't put our vulnerability out there. I can understand. But I'm saying that the 3 cases that I have are not people who have traveled anywhere. They were all here in this country. So that one too. And that brings me to my usual advice, my usual position on this matter. That look, anytime any SIM swap fraud happens, the money that is lost, no questions asked, it must be paid by the respective telco and the respective bank, period. Once we begin to do that, once we begin to do that, because according to her, they are putting measures in place to make sure that any transaction on the SIM that has been swapped is delayed. So if the incident happens and the money is stolen, please, Bank of Ghana should make sure that that money is paid, refunded between the bank and the telco. It will be refunded. When we do that, my wisdom is that when we do that, it means the incident of fraud is now being turned to the banks and the telcos. So if you exact it on the customer, it will be the burden of the telco and the what do you call it, the bank. When they begin to become the victims of the fraud, i.e. the telcos and the banks, they will put their cybersecurity measures in order to protect all of us. That's my position. Here is where I end another edition of Big Tech GH. I'm going to come back to you again with another compelling edition of this issue. God bless.